Versed with what is happening locally and internationally. Now, today is a big day because the amendment of the UPDF bill is taking place, and we are waiting to see how it's going to run on the floor of Parliament, how the opposition members of Parliament who said this time we shall not boycott, we shall not walk out, we are going to be in Parliament, inside the House, as things are happening, and express our dissatisfaction. But also the issues of disappearances. Now, ASP, that is Charles Twine, who has been heading the investigations department at Parliament, went missing like a week ago. And yesterday, during the weekly press briefing that is usually held at police headquarters in Naguru, the police spokesperson, Rushoke Gitumwa, came up and said he is not aware of who is holding him, neither where he is, but he's going to carry out investigations. Same applied to Noop lawyer, who also went missing. He said the same. We don't know who have these people, but we are going to investigate and find out. However, for the Noop aspirant for Mitiana District Woman Member of Parliament, he said we have this person and anytime she'll be presented in court. But I want to commend the police spokesperson.
Right.
I saw how serious he was on handling these critical issues. I've heard of that. When we get information, I'll tell you. I've heard of that. When we get information, I'll tell you. We are investigating. He came to the issue where it is alleged that UPDF went and rounded over Rubowa police station and walloped the police officers that were there. Seriously, beat them up. He said, up to now, we are carrying out with investigations, and we shall, at the opportune time, come and give you updates of what we shall have found. So he's very proper to avoid contradiction.
He's very careful.
We don't know, then
Yes.
later come up. The way he was speaking, I saw a lot of professionalism in him carrying out his work, and I want to commend him.
Right. Very well. Thank you, Robert, for that. Now give us an update, a deeper update on what is on the local scene.
Well, I'll begin with the missing police officer, where police have denied information regarding the disappearance of the Parliamentary Lead Investigations Officer, ASP Charles Twine, who went missing last week. While addressing the weekly security press briefing at police headquarters in Naguru, police spokesperson Rusoke Kitumwa highlighted on other people who have disappeared. It is close to a week since the disappearance of senior police detective ASP Charles Twine, who leads Parliamentary Police Investigation Team. The family reached out to forces in police, but no promising response was given. The police spokesperson Rushoke Kitumwa denied information leading to the senior officer's disappearance. The unverified circulating information shows that Charles Twine was summoned by the Inspector General of Police, Abbas Byakagaba, for a special inquiry on Wednesday, May the 14th, and since then, his whereabouts are unknown. Police commit to investigations and find out circumstances under his disappearance. Charles Twine was last seen on duty in Mbara district on the 13th of May 2025 while escorting members of parliament while doing oversight. Twine's fieldwork was cut short by the IGP's summons. Meanwhile, police are investigating the alleged abduction of a senior counsel, Obed Nasser, who went missing last week. Police say there is no clue concerning his whereabouts. Meanwhile, security agencies have cautioned the public against misuse of the term abduction, saying some cases are lawful arrests while others may be exaggerated. The opposition caucus in Parliament has downplayed the holding of the controversial Uganda People's Defence Force Amendment Bill 2025. The UPDF Amendment Bill 2025 has been aligned for the second reading as Parliament returns today. The leader of opposition in Parliament, Joe Senyonyi, said some stakeholders, including the National Unity Platform, was not given room to present their side. Lop Senyonyi rallied opposition members to attend the sitting and ensure that the bill collapses. The environment and circumstances have seemingly left no option to the opposers of the controversial Uganda People's Defense Forces Amendment Bill 2025. The bill against the clock has been arraigned for the second reading a week after it was introduced in Parliament. But some, as the government chief whip, Hamson Obua, says all stakeholders have been consulted. The government bill introduces exceptional circumstances under which civilians can be tried by the court-martial. These include, among others, being found in possession of military stores and aiding a military officer in committing crimes. The bill, if considered, it will witness the return of the court-martial despite the recent Supreme Court ruling which disqualified its jurisdiction. These and many concerns are what the opposition wing in Parliament stands to object and propose new legislation. Senyonyi rallied the members in the opposition to highly attend today's sitting and ensure that the bill collapses. Beautification of the Catholic shrine of the Uganda Martyrs in Namugongo are underway in preparation for the 3rd June Martyrs Day. Although some pilgrims have started arriving, the shrine administrator, Father Francis Muwonge, said the shrine will officially be open to pilgrims starting Saturday the 24th of May. Preparations for this year's pilgrim to the Catholic Shrine of Uganda Martyrs in Namugongo are in full swing. Activities for the beautification of the shrines, including painting, cutting of the grass and building of ashes, are underway. The Uganda Martyrs Catholic Shrine Administrator Francis Muwonge told UBC TV that the tentative program will be released. Some of the pilgrims at the Catholic Shrine were praying near the statues of Charles Ranga, shared with UBC what they have come to do and why that early. Some pilgrims carried jerrycans and bottles containing what they termed as holy water drawn from the Martyrs Lake. The administrators at Namugongo Martyrs Catholic Shrine said although many pilgrims are expected earlier than the 3rd of June, they say the shrine will officially be opened to pilgrims come Sunday, the 25th of May this year. Muwonge said the program will commence with a novena on May 24th this very year. Now, finally, on the local scene, the NRM Parliamentary Caucus resolved to support the UPDF Amendment Bill 2025 in fulfillment of the recent Supreme Court ruling. While addressing the media at Parliament, the government chief whip, Hamson Obua, said the Supreme Court indicated that civilians can be tried in military court under exceptional circumstances. The caucus also resolved to support the Political Parties Amendment Bill that contains political parties to join IPOD in order to access government funds. Obua addressed the media after the parliamentary caucus meeting. Meanwhile, the Forum for Democratic Change has vowed to challenge the new proposed legislation intending to reinstate the court-martial. FDC sitting in Najanankumbi highly evaluated the UPDF Amendment Bill 2025, warning Parliament against passing it. On January 31st this year, the Supreme Court ruled that military courts lacked jurisdiction to try civilians and ordered halting of all ongoing trials, and further ruled that all civilians be tried in civil courts. Those who are in the court-martial, their files be transferred to civil courts for trial. And that brings us to the end of our local stories this morning.
Thank you, Robert. And moving on to the foreign scene, one would wonder, will the war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, ever end? Even Trump, in whom many had hopes, is, I think, starting to topple. But last year, Donald Trump promised he would end Ukraine's war between Russia and Ukraine in just 24 hours. But last week, he said that it would not be resolved until he and Russian President Vladimir Putin could get together and hash it out in person. On Monday, yesterday, the ground shifted again. After a 2-hour phone call with Putin, he said that the conditions of a peace deal could only be negotiated between Russia and Ukraine, and maybe with the help of the Pope. Still, the US president has not lost sense of optimism about the prospect for peace, posting on his social media that the combatants would immediately start negotiations for a ceasefire and an end to the war. That sentiment was somewhat at odds with the Russian view. Putin only said that his country is ready to work with Ukraine to craft a memorandum on a possible future peace agreement. Talks about memorandums and a possible future of peace hardly seems the kind of solid ground on which lasting deals can be quickly built. Continue to pray for those two. But anyways, going on to Brazil, the trial of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has begun with charges that he plotted a coup d'etat and led a criminal organization to overturn the result of the October 2022 election, in which he was narrowly defeated by current President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. The country's Supreme Court is hearing the testimony from high-ranking military and political figures started yesterday over into the next 2 weeks. Now, the 70-year-old far-right leader, a former army captain who governed Brazil from 2019 to 2022, could face up to 40 years in prison if convicted. Bolsonaro denies the allegations, claiming that he is a victim of political persecution. Now, more than 80 witnesses are set to testify via video conference, including Generals Marco Antonio Freire Gomez and Carlos de Almeida Baptista Jr., who served as commanders of the Army and Air Force under Bolsonaro. In previous statements to federal police, both men said Bolsonaro had raised the hypothetical possibility of using legal means to annul the 2022 election and justify a military intervention. According to prosecutors, the alleged plot included plans to declare a state of emergency, hold new elections, and assassinate President Lula. Now let's come to East Africa, and that is in Tanzania. Tanzania's main opposition leader, Tundu Lissu, has appeared in court for the very first time since his arrest on treason charges last month, telling his supporters not to fear. He raised his fist in a gesture of defiance and told his supporters, "You will be fine. You should not fear." Tension was high in the country's biggest city, Dar es Salaam, in the morning, with security officers heavily deployed at the trial, magistrates' court, and elsewhere. But that did not deter his supporters, hundreds of whom gathered outside the court. The court had previously attempted to conduct hearings virtually, but he and his legal team opposed this, citing the need for transparency and due process. The Chadema party leader was arrested on 9th April following his rallying call for no reforms, no election, telling supporters that the general election due October should not go ahead unless there are electoral reforms. He has since been charged with treason and publishing false information online, with allegedly inciting rebellion, and accused police of electoral misconduct. He denies the charges, and if convicted, he could face the death penalty. Well, that's it from the foreign scene, but let's have a look at what's in the dailies today, Robert.
Well, we begin with the New Vision this morning. The sentencing comes 10 years after her murder. Who is that? That is a Kagezi killer, gets 35 years in prison. 10 years after. Now, Chabazinga graduates from Yale. That is the king of Busoga Kingdom. We have Museveni rallies Kitagwenda on household income. What a big rally it was there. And we have police officers arrested in gold theft. They were policing the thieves. Now here we have drivers panic over new tax policy. What is in that policy? Well, the New Vision gives you more of that. Let me quickly move to the Daily Monitor this morning. Now NRM hands the rope to its members of parliament. Yes, after the caucus, go past that. Now, my life in crime before we killed Kagezi. Ooh, what a narration. And over 300 pilgrims from West Nile start the journey of faith. Indeed, it's a long distance, journey of faith. And here, new traffic fines start biting today. So are you well aware of what the fines are like in case you aren't before you drive? Make sure I have sufficient information on what the fines are. And the lizard comes in as usual. Sarcastically, he says, what is not biting Ugandans? So everything bites Ugandans, telling them of the new traffic guidelines. They have heard that and so on. Now, let's also look at what our neighbors have, Julie.
Yes, indeed. And starting with the Citizen in Tanzania, Tanzania's new foreign policy targets diaspora investments. And Samia warns East African community activists against interference. And court orders relaxed security for Lisu, reverses online hearing order. And government cuts tourism charges to boost local investment. But also still in the Citizen, MCL's first woman MD chats bold new future for the company. And there in is real estate, Paja Square launch marks new era for Zanzibar. And quickly looking at what is happening in Kenya, shame of political thuggery. That is a story and a headline in the Daily Nation. In fact, no arrests yet following in past Gachagua events, impunity. Now, new school systems link data with Maisha number, and private millers to invest 12 billion shillings in public sugar factories. But also still in the Daily Nation, unit for office, the case against 4 IEBC nominees. And that is pretty much it from what is in the dailies. Make sure that you grab yourself a copy in case you want to see more. For now, Good Morning Uganda takes a short break as we enjoy some music, and more is up for you. Continue watching Good Morning Uganda on UBC TV.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Ati omukyala gw'olina tasaana olw'okuba ofunye wakasente omulaba nga luuza ne bw'ayoya ku nkoko omugamba nti yamubuuka levo bw'akusaba omutwaleko.
You're suggesting that I imagine it. Do you see something?
No. It's just that I'm dying to watch you crawl through that hatch.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, dondolo.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Juko.
Yo.
What you go? Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala, we have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
The government's mandate is to maintain law and order, safeguard citizens' rights, and provide essential public services.
Remember, one of the pillars of a roadmap is innovation and entrepreneurship.
There has been this question of how are you protecting our indigenous seed?
It's going to be a tall project. That answers somebody's question.
For the past 20 weeks, the Front Bench has brought you insightful discussions on governance, security, healthcare, justice, and commerce.
When you go through this complicated procedure, involve the lawyers, you bring the case against him, the judge will hear you out and pass judgment, and you're out of court in record time.
We remain committed to keeping you informed and engaged on key national matters.
So these are huge, these are powerful organizations which now Uganda chairs. Why don't you come together?
If we haven't migrated to the e-card because of various reasons, including that not all the people of Uganda have smartphones.
You can sit in your house, apply for a passport. If you have a Ugandan who has a successful logistics firm in the US, it means he can come to Uganda and do a lot more.
Now airing every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with me, Jethro Kasaiji, your interface with the government only on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, good morning, Uganda. Thank you so much for choosing UBC TV, always here to inspire you. The show is Good Morning Uganda. My name is Julie Nantaba Musisi, as always with Robert Chirabo Nyonyi Ntono. Now, it's been 3 years since the president of Uganda issued the executive order number 3 prohibiting commercial production of tree cutting for firewood in 28 districts across the northern and northeastern Uganda. Now, the goal for this was to combat widespread deforestation and environmental degradation caused by unsustainable charcoal burning, which ultimately affects the biodiversity. And the reason really this was implemented was over concerns of the environment and the impact of charcoal production on the environment, as well as emissions that come from that whole exercise and the loss of biodiversity. Now, looking at the statistics of just how many people in Uganda use charcoal over those who use clean energy, about 71.9% of Ugandan households use charcoal and firewood to make their meals in their homes. And just about 23%, pardon me, 23% of these households, in fact, use charcoal, 71.9% use firewood, 23% use charcoal, and just 4.1% use clean energy in their homes. That is a statistic to ponder deeply on, but today we delve deeper into that particular topic of government's plans to ban and end the use of charcoal in households. Be a part of the conversation, 0709-602-592. Now, Robert, how does the burning of charcoal affect individuals altogether?
Now, I want to look at this in two perspectives.
Right.
One, those in business and those using charcoal, how it affects both of them. First, let's look at the people whose daily livelihood for cooking entirely depends on charcoal. We have Ugandans today in many homes who are depending on charcoal. And I know many of us and many of you watching us, your source of energy for cooking is typically charcoal.
And actually, if you paint that picture, even in homes that are seemingly using a lot of clean energy, somewhere in the corner is a circle of charcoal, and this is why.
There's a circle of charcoal.
Yes.
Yes, they could use gas for lighter things.
But there are foods that...
Then when it comes to food, they'll still do the charcoal.
Or particular foods that their cooking process...
Many will tell you, I'm not going to use gas to cook the beans.
Yeah, for example, beans. It's not as easy to cook beans. The whole process of cooking beans.
Some will even tell you, I don't enjoy matoke cooked on gas.
On gas, yes.
I don't know for those that take kalo, those that take what. So there are specific beef. Some would say, no. I want that stew to come out, the aroma, let's use the sigiri. So many homes today use charcoal. And when the president in 2023 came out with a presidential directive, that is number 3, and banned this, it highly increased the cost of charcoal. Very high, it almost doubled. And for those that buy the sacks, a sack that was at around 50,000 shot to 90 to 80,000, because they were telling you, in some places 100, because they were telling you now it is very hard to bring this charcoal to arrive to this destination where you get it, because we pay a lot of bribes. Tulisa abasajja bangi mu kkubo osobola okutuusaako amanda gano. Manda kati gafuuse kirala. Literally meaning we spend so much money in bribing people. That is why by the time it gets here, of course it is you, the client, to stomach that bill. Now, it affected the users because what they were using to cook, because you can't do without eating, had increased tremendously, the prices had increased. But now to those in business, this is what it meant. Some were totally eliminated. I want to tell you there are very many people who are dealing in charcoal and were totally eliminated. So they lost business. Now they lost a job, because with charcoal you have those that cut the trees, you have those that burn the charcoal. That burn the charcoal. Then you have the vehicles that transport the charcoal. You have those that load the charcoal. Now, if these were working under one person who was pulled out of business because whenever they would load the trucks, they would be impounded. So they lost business, their livelihood was messed, their families, that is a clear thing, definitely. So, but to others still, they got better business. They got better business because I want to speak and I'm on camera and on national TV. The presidential ban was only for the weak links, the less connected. Those are the people it affected. As we speak today, charcoal business is going on like never before. Those that had connections, those that knew how to play around with the Uganda we are living in today, where there is moral decadence and corruption, made more business.
Allow me interject there so that you actually even paint a deeper picture. With the statistics we've looked at, 71.9% of Ugandans still use firewood. 23% of Ugandans still use charcoal, and just 4.1% of Ugandans use clean energy. What does that reflect? And as you think about that, somebody comes through and says, what about us who do restaurant business? Indeed, as we were talking about charcoal being in homes, let's not forget those who do business, in restaurant business.
Now, when we go to business, all charcoal is used in so many things in business. Now, why I am telling you that business, it became those doing it now, it's very creative. Because one, the cost went high and other people who are delivering this charcoal were put out of business. Previously, you would see charcoal on trucks and you can notice it is charcoal. Now, what they do is they have what we call box bodies. You see a long truck passing, it is a box body, you know, like a fuso that I wish my producer could get me a box body truck carrying charcoal. Like you don't see the charcoal.
Right.
It is inside and packed properly. So when it passes, you may think it's a truck carrying something else, but inside there is charcoal. Now, these know where to pass, these know who to pay, and they're untouched and they will reach the market. Remember, when there is scarcity, there is demand. Now, if on Entebbe Road there used to be about 50 distributors of charcoal, and there were many trucks, 50 trucks that would come in a day, that is something like a box body now. You can't see the charcoal, but the other one is also covered up, and at the back there are doors. So when they put charcoal inside there and doesn't go above, and they close the back, you won't know what is passing. Remember previously, the trucks were open.
All right.
And you could say that is a charcoal truck. Now they have resorted to that kind of doing things. Now, if there were 50 trucks and now only 10 come, those are the people now only 10 distribute on Entebbe Road. There is scarcity, so they have a bigger market and they have the cost. Now, that is the impact on the user. That is the impact on those who are in business, that much as many were eliminated, the few that remained are making tremendous profits and are cutting trees like never before. Reason being, it is now paying them so very much than it was paying before.
You've talked about the issue of demand. You know, right now it's very limited in supply, but the demand is high, and that's why it's still going on.
Still going on.
Why do you think it's persistent? Perhaps if there's no demand, even these men will be out of business.
Why the demand is there, first and foremost, the substitutes to charcoal are very expensive. You see, what makes sometimes a commodity not to be very expensive or abandoned, when you get substitutes that are cheaper. If, for example, rice grown here in Uganda is very expensive, we shall import rice from Tanzania because it will be cheaper.
Right.
Now, what is happening? Let's look at the substitutes of charcoal. Liquefied gas, that is LPG, the gas we use in homes to cook. A gas cylinder on average of about 8 kgs, how much is it on average? You know, that is about 130. Purchasing, refilling, that is about 50,000. Now, you must use this gas very carefully. That is why someone will tell you can't use gas for cooking beans. Gas ajagenda munji. And I know you will come back and abuse the maid or lash at the maid. How do you put beans on gas? How?
Right.
This gas is expensive. It's supposed to take me for 2-3 months. We only boil milk for the little girl. We only warm
Cook
some
light food or maybe
light
boil
food
rice.
or something like that. But gas does not cook food in this house. That is what you're going to say. So if you have to look at LPG, it is very expensive. People will tell you, compare how much a bag of charcoal is, but let's be realistic. Let's look at what you're going to cook vis-a-vis. Let's not look at, because most of the people who speak like that, they have what we call combined cooking energy sources. Your gas is taking longer because there are specific foods you're not cooking on gas. 2, let's look at the other alternative, electricity. With one, unreliable electricity, first and foremost, that you can get home and most of late. 2, the cost. If you're to cook using electricity and you're cooking beans, that is what we've referred to use.
Especially for now, those who run businesses,
for
restaurants.
now, those who run businesses. How many units, if you're using the light, formerly known as Yaka, if you're using light, how many units are you going to consume a day? And are you making profit?
And how much are you charging
and
your
how
clients?
much are you charging your clients? Because you may say that bill finally goes to the clients, but remember, you're not the only one in the food business. The other would be briquettes. But still, even to make briquettes, you need that the charcoal hash or senyent.
Right.
That you bought charcoal, then those remaining, you need them still. We can't have briquettes without charcoal. So you still have, and briquettes, remember, I've even tried to look at some people who have already made briquettes and they are selling the briquettes. They will tell you a small bag like this, 50,000. And they will tell you, yes, this will take longer per se if you use it the right way, but still, how available are the briquettes? How affordable are the briquettes? So by and large, for urban dwellers, leave alone in the rural settings where people can go and look for firewood. But now, that is the liquefied petroleum gas that is used for cooking. Many companies, they have different brands make them. You know, that small one, that size, it doesn't go if you're purchasing it for less than 130,000.
Right.
And remember, you're going to refill that thing at about 50,000. And that will depend on how you use that gas. How careful are you when using that cylinder? And the other thing also comes now with safety measures. There are some people that have not adopted to the proper use of the gas, LPG, because it also has some disadvantages if not used very well. And among them, you can lighten up the entire house. So, charcoal still remains the best alternative for someone in an urban setting.
Now, let's talk about the transition process. What measures do you think the government can take on to aid this transition process as it plans to ban charcoal completely away from Uganda? What suggestions would you have for government to aid this process of transitioning? Because first and foremost, it's not easy to convince the transition. Telling someone to cook beans on gas, on a gas stove, is not easy. But also, I would see ideas like innovation spaces coming up. For example, in Zambia, Zambia has a lady with her team. They choose to use fecal sludge and turn it into briquettes. But that would be a whole investment. Therefore, they choose to collect human waste and turn it into briquettes. But that is an investment. It's quite a project that is heavy financially, that would require in fact, government support and maybe funding in one way or the other. But anyways, how would you suggest government to aid this whole transition?
One thing I've learned that mankind, when squeezed so much, the brains think so hard, and they come up with a solution. That is one thing I've learned, that when mankind is squeezed so much, the brains think so fast, and they come up with a solution. But as long as they are still in a comfort zone, they'll never come up with a solution. First and foremost, effectively execute the ban. That is number one. Make sure no track of charcoal leaves the north and east. So that, believe you me, even if someone wanted to use charcoal, charcoal then is more expensive than the substitutes.
Right.
You get it? Because yes, if we wake up one day and charcoal is more expensive than LPG, or charcoal is more expensive than electricity, Judy, Ugandans will switch to these two. But as long as these bans, there's selective justice, we still have corruption. That much as Robert, I cannot do that business again, Julie is doing the same business and making a lot of profit because I'm out of the business. Your trucks are coming to Kampala from this region, my trucks are impounded, at police I'm suffering. I'm told, these are not confirmed reports, but I'm told. And in that meeting, I was watching some story, even the RDCs and some high-profile people in security confirmed that there are even trucks who are escorted. Top. So if we can stop that, that is one. Second, reduce the costs. Now we had Umeme go. UDCL is taking over. This took over. This is government. Why can't we reduce electricity charges? We still make profits because power is generated here. We know this is the cost of maintenance and distribution. Why can't we reduce the cost of electricity?
And with a reduced cost, yes.
It makes it very possible for Ugandans to cook comfortably.
Yeah, which will increase demand.
Electricity. Now, if electricity is fairly cheap, any woman, any person wouldn't go through the inconvenience of making themselves dirty with charcoal. Yet I can just put on a switch and put on something. Two, we are in our oil exploration process.
Right.
And LPG is one of the products that we get in oil. I'm happy we are having a refinery here in Uganda. That is part of the plan, to have an oil refinery. And LPG is one of these products. Now, I'm very sure that if we get to that level, government has had some initiatives, and it's been ongoing, of providing subsidized LPG gas cylinders containing gas to the population. But this has still remained in some urban centers where people are getting these at us. Now, I'm optimistic, and I want to believe that when we get to this level where it is done here in Uganda on a larger scale, then LPG will be very, very affordable. I want to believe.
Right.
Very, very affordable for every Uganda. Now, if the substitutes are there, that is government of Uganda. Now, those are the cylinders. When you see them, GOU, government of Uganda. Inside there is LPG gas. And I want to say, for example, where I come from, a number of people have benefited from these cylinders.
Right.
Yes. So if we have these alternatives, then who would want to be dirty? Who would want in their home to have a sack of charcoal?
Now let's have a look at some of your comments coming through. This is Cricket Derek Gargamel. You say, good morning, Julie and Robert. If government wants us to do away with charcoal, the question is has government provided alternatives, and is it effective and affordable? Because before you ban something, you must have a proper replacement for it. Charcoal still defines us, and most households are very contented with it because of other options being expensive and dangerous. The only disadvantage with this method is that it has promoted deforestation, which affects us in a long run. Thank you so much, Cricket Derek from Luafu, Much Indian. Somebody else comes through and says, Thanks for the show. We are enjoying, but some plans and laws in Uganda are made, but implementation is very difficult, especially to people who have office. They end up also becoming corrupt and hence fail the plan. So government should look at sensitization of villages, parishes, and to district level and reduce prices of gas cylinders. I'm Kagumba Morris in Mayuge District, Eastern Uganda. Thank you so much for being on the show. And as we start to bring this to a close, what do you think are the challenges of adopting to these alternative sources of energy?
One, cost.
Right.
Because you've said these alternative sources are very expensive for an ordinary or average Ugandan. They're very expensive. Two, mindset change. We still have people who think that for them they can't eat food cooked by gas, by electricity. You find a man who says, Matoke, how did you cook it? I like the aroma. You find people still who will tell you, LPG gas, not anywhere to my house. That thing kills. It is a time bomb.
Yes.
I have children.
Yeah.
It is disaster. It is for the rich who have space, the kitchen is miles and all that.
Yet even with charcoal, you could still burn the house down.
So still there is that mindset change as a problem. Then three, the corruption, definitely.
Right.
The corruption, that as long as this is still into selective justice, it is a challenge, because why would I go for this, yet I can have this? But also sensitization is another challenge, because we must know that we are not only burning charcoal, but for northern Uganda and eastern, where many people resorted to cutting, massive tree cutting, we are conducting a lot of deforestation without afforestation. Now, what did this mean? First, these are dry areas. We've had people in some of these areas reach a point of eating leaves, and they are captured on camera because of the dry spell that hit them, and we all know, out of human or man activities. Now, when the president, the visionary leader, looked ahead and knew that if we don't stop this now, maybe some years to come, this is going to be a semi-desert.
And looking into the same issue, this whole ban of charcoal ultimately is to reduce deforestation. But do you think there are environmental consequences that are coming from also trying to look at other alternatives?
LPG, I wouldn't say there are environmental consequences.
Right.
Because...
especially without adequate planning. The fact that this whole policy is being implemented without adequate planning, and all these alternative sources are being suggested or maybe even put on the market, but without adequate planning, do you think it will still affect the environment in one way or the other, in some shape or form?
Now, I think we are placed between a rock and a hard place. One, this directive would have been done many years back, decades back, before the situation even was so worse. But also, we put the cart before the horse. How? We would have first had these substitutes in place, then execute the ban. Because now the cart is before the horse. And who is supposed to pull who? This is the challenge, where the dilemma where we are in. So it is a complicated situation, but what we can say, we can expedite the process. We can expedite the process for these substitutes. We can tighten. What we need to do is to hunt the hunter, because the enforcement is letting us down. I was watching the DPC there talking about you have 9 districts, then you have 6 environmental police, something protection unit. Now, how are they going to work? But they're supposed to work. So it is the hunter that must be hunted, because the hunter is failing us. People, they are just saying from above, I received a phone call from above. So we need to hunt them, hold them accountable.
Right. Let's bring this conversation to a close. Thank you so much for being on the show and a part of this conversation. One thing for sure is the ultimate goal is we are the ones responsible for the environment that we live in, because, I mean, it feeds us, it sustains our lives. So why not sustain it as well in the best way possible? Change is part of life, and it tends to be difficult, but sometimes very necessary. And how about we embrace it and also achieve the goal of being good stewards of the environment that God has given us. Good morning, Uganda. We do have GMU Tourism Express. We do have business. We do have the agenda. A lot is still in for you, so stay tuned.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
You can now get all the chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000 or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21 hash and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archive stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala, we have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Arise and shine. It is a wonderful morning. My name is Zakia Lucky and welcome to the GMU Tourism Express. I want to start with the good news in the tourism sector. The Uganda Airlines launched a direct flight to the UK that will be doing 4 times a week, and it is starting on the 18th of May. You should be excited for that one. Previously, we talked about religious tourism, but that was dedicated to the Muslims. And this is the 3rd week of the Lent period, and this is being dedicated to the Christians. We are coming to you from Namugongo Shrine. Most of you know about this for the Uganda Matters particularly, but today you are going to be learning so much more about this place. It's not just about the Uganda Matters, but you're yet to get to understand what else happens here. Let's unveil it to you today. So we are inside of the shrine, and we are at the very spot where Charles Rwanga was killed. But Ben is going to be taking us to the history about this particular area and give us even more information about this place. We're happy to have you, Mr. Ben, on the show.
Thank you so much. My name is Ben Tenywa, the Chief Pilgrim's Guide at the Uganda Martyrs Catholic Shrine Namugongo. Now we are inside here in the Uganda Martyrs Shrine. Where we are standing is the exact spot where they burnt Charles Rwanga, the leader of the Uganda Martyrs. It was around midday on Thursday, 3rd of June, 1886. A man known as Senkole tied Charles Rwanga here and burnt him from feet to head. But he told him, "You are burning me, but it is as if you are pouring water over my body. You have not even tied me properly. Leave me, I tie myself so that you can burn me. Go and tell the king that he has killed me for nothing. Let him repent. If he does not repent, I'll be the accuser before God." People came and took the ash. When the ash was over, they took the soil. When the soil was over, they started digging. A very big hole developed. They covered and put the altar. This is where bishops and priests celebrate Mass. This is a holy place. The painting in the background, you see, it is showing that the Uganda Martyrs are in heaven. They have got palms, signs of victory. They have conquered the death. Now they are in heaven praising Jesus and God. And down is the Blessed Sacrament. That's where they keep the body of Jesus in the form of bread and wine, which they give the faithful when they come for Holy Communion. And all those you see in the stained glasses, all those you see in the stained glasses, those are the Uganda Martyrs. Inside here is mahogany, outside copper sheets. The seating capacity of this shrine is 1,000. We have 4 masses every day, 5 masses every Sunday. The day we remember the Uganda Martyrs, over 1 million people come, masses in the compound. This church, this shrine, was started in 1967 and completed in 1975. It is a round shrine, it is a round church depicting African traditional hats and stands on 22 pillars representing the 22 Catholic martyrs. Round showing African hats. So we pray here, the day of the martyrs on the lake. There where you see white men, that is showing the arrival of the white fathers. Father Simeon Ludel and brother Amanis. Those are the people who evangelized the Uganda Martyrs. They were not killed. They wrote whatever we know. There you see Charles Rwanga baptizing Kizito. Kizito was the youngest. They killed him when he was only 14 years. He was not baptized by the missionaries. So now it was Charles Rwanga who baptized Kizito just shortly after the condemnation. And I'm telling him, younger man, don't lose faith. We are going in heaven. Those 2 martyrs are popular. Kizito, because he was the youngest. Charles Rwanga, because he was the leader. Now there you see, near the door there you see the Pope. The Pope, Pope Paul VI, was just lying down here under the altar. In the whole of Africa, the first Pope came to Uganda. He was here at Namugongo on the 2nd of August, 1969. Pope Paul VI. In all of Africa, he first came to Uganda. And he came here at Namugongo. John Paul II also was here at Namugongo on the 7th of February, 1993. Pope Francis also came on 28th of November, 2015. And the last painting there is showing the first cardinal of Uganda, the late Emmanuel Nsubuga. He was made a cardinal in 1976 and he died in 1991. Now there you see the Kabaka, the king. The king was sitting on the skin of a leopard, showing his powers. Kabaka Mwanga, King Mwanga, the one who killed the Uganda Martyrs. He was just sitting on the skin of a leopard, sitting on his throne, passing a death sentence. Take them away, go and burn them. Take them to Namugongo and burn them. Now the last painting there is showing canonization. The Uganda Martyrs are all saints. They were proclaimed the saints on 18th of October, 1964.
I'll be waiting you to join me on the second episode as we continue to exhaust religious tourism with the Catholics. We'll be starting exactly see what's also there regarding the Uganda matters.
Welcome back from GMU Tourism Express as you look forward to 3rd June to celebrate the Uganda matters. But today in GMU Business, starting off with a very interesting finding. Many a times we are told, or many a times there's the narrative that women are more than men in number, and there are more women existing in number than men. But it's very interesting that the 2024 Uganda Bureau of Statistics preliminary results from the recent census shows that Uganda has more men than women. Ponder deeply on that, but after the enumeration held from May 9th to 10th, 2024 Uganda Bureau of Statistics has started disseminating census results, and UBOS Executive Director Dr. Chris Mukiza says that as of May 2024, Kisoro District's population is 433,662 with 251,631 males and 182,31 females. Can you imagine? But the nationwide census covering urban and rural areas provides accurate data to guide development planning and policy decisions. UBOS Executive Director Dr. Chris Mukiza released census results in Kisoro that has key implications for service delivery, infrastructure, and resource allocation. He urged leaders to use the data to shape government programs, and the dissemination continues across all districts. Now, moving on, Soroti Fruit Processing Factory has started purchasing and processing local mangoes for farmers in Teso sub-region and beyond. The chief executive, Julius Ekomu, said mango growers have started supplying the raw materials, and since its inauguration by President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni on April 13, 2019, the factory in Soroti East focused on processing various orange varieties, including Hamlin, Valencia, and Washington Navel. Lawrence Emoit reported that last week they supplied 10 tons of local mangoes. And a farmer, Simon Ogolo, shared that he sold 1,425 kilograms of mangoes harvested from the 3 trees, earning over 213,700,000 Uganda shillings. Well, that is good news for them, staying and keeping in business as well as growing in business. But let's have a look at what is with the foreign exchange rates today as of the 19th day of May 2025. And as of the morning, the dollar opened at buying 3,650.68 and was selling at 3,660.68. And by midday, it was at 3,650.64, dropped a little value there, and selling at 3,660.64. Now, the US dollar was buying at 4,650.59 by close of day, and selling at 3,660.59. Now, looking at the British pound, it was buying at 4,856.437 and selling at 4,869.68. And the euro was buying at 4,084.28 and selling at 4,094.46. The Kenyan shilling was buying at 28.25 and selling at 28.33. The Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.35 and selling at 1.36. And the South African rand was buying at 202.36 and selling at 202.92. Well, that's it from GMU Business. Up next is the agenda, and we are looking at matters nutrition as the Parliamentary Nutrition Week is upon us. So stick around and be sure to grab and catch the number 0709602592 to which you are able to be a part of the conversation. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily, or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Oyo ye Diplock Sega wanga chaguze myaka namwe 3 May ku National Theatre. A lifetime of melody concert. 43 years of Diplock Segawa performing in Kampala for the first time in a long time. Enyimbo boba dowuli ampulire kati jangu. Diplock Segawa hazikuyimbire. Tickets eya gold ya mitwalo 15 ate VIP ya mitwalo 30. Booking ticket yo ku noti 775 oba ku www.carrytickets.com oba ku National Theatre. Ono ye Diplock Segawa. 23 May 2025 ku National Theatre, celebrating 43 years of Diplock Segawa. Big Tutusi Wako Charism, UNCC, UNMF, Statewide Insurance Company, UCC, Riz Medical Center, John Joe Fashions, Hot, Q Vibes, Nekari Tickets.
Juko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
The government's commandate is to maintain law and order, safeguard citizens' rights, and provide essential public services.
Remember, one of the pillars of a roadmap is innovation and entrepreneurship.
There has been this question of how are you protecting our indigenous seed?
It's going to be a tall project. That answers somebody's question.
For the past 20 weeks, the front bench has brought you insightful discussions on governance, security, healthcare, justice, and commerce.
When you go through this complicated procedure, involve the lawyers, you bring the case against him, the judge will hear you out and pass judgment, and you're out of court in record time.
We remain committed to keeping you informed and engaged on key national matters.
So these are huge, these are powerful organizations which now Uganda chairs. Why don't you come together?
If we haven't migrated to the e-card because of various reasons, including that not all the people of Uganda have smartphones.
You can sit in your house, apply for a passport. If you have a Ugandan who has a successful logistics firm in the US, it means he can come to Uganda and do a lot more
Now airing every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with me, Jethro Kasaiji, your interface with the government only on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala, we have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
Nsooka okwebaza omukulembeze w'eggwanga okututeekateeka. Twali tetunnaba kuteekebwateekebwa, twafuna okusoomoozebwa nga kungi nnyo. Omuli okutukwata abasirikale, olumu nga tetulina na kitukoze. Kale nga n'akasente k'oba osonzeewo ggwe nga ggwe akagenda okukuyambako mu bizibu byo, nga weekanga okawadde abasirikale. Naye okuva ffe ghetto structure we yayimirirawo, ebintu bingi byakyuka. Abaana baffe tebakyabakwata nnyo okuggyako abo abamenyi b'amateeka. Ne be bakutte nga babakwatidde mu ghetto nga ekikwekweto kibadde kiyise. Nabo tulina omukisa ogugenda okubaggyayo. Abasirikale batuwulira. Abasirikale batuwulira. Toyinza kugenda ku poliisi n'ogamba DPC nti bakutte omwana wange ng'akumanyi nti oli komanda. N'atateekayo nnyo maanyi kukola ki? Kumugyayo. Ne neebaza bakama baffe, General Damulira, Afande Kuteesa, nange tweyanzizza nnyo mukoze ky'amaanyi, bo bakoze ky'amaanyi nnyo tuteekateeka. Kuba bwe twamala okuyingira ghetto structure, ne batuteekerawo n'essako. Ne certificate twazifuna. Kati bwe batteekerawo ssako eyo, era muzeeyi n'amala n'atuukiriza kye yatugamba n'atuteekeramu ssente. Era kati eno essaawa gye tuliko tuwola abaana, tuwola ba ghetto youth, ababadde balina bizinesi zaabwe naye nga zibulamu ebyokkola. Tugenda tubawa okutwaliza wamu kati tuli bulungi, tetuli bubi nnyo, era twebaliza ddala President Museveni okutukolera ekintu ekyo kuba mubugufu twali.
Njagala okwebaza olw'enteekateeka eno gavumenti gye yatondawo ey'okulaba nga omuntu wa wansi, omuntu omuwejjero wa ghetto afiibwako. Nti nga ghettos eriyo embeera eyaliwo nga si nnungi. Okugezesa ddala mu nteekateeka eno nga tennajja, abaana bangi baakwatibwanga, naye bukya enteekateeka eno ejja, bintu bingi bituukiddwako, naddala mu nteekateeka z'ebyokwerinda, security, wamu n'enkulaakulana. Nga tuyita mu nkola gye bayita eya ghetto structure.
Ghetto structure kwe kulonda obukulembeze okubira ddala ku ghetto esookebwako ku kyalo ne tubeera ne ba coordinators ku muluka paka eno gye tuli. Omwaka guno yatuwa ssente obukadde 100 wano emikono twabufuna. Era mu nfuna ya ssente zino twagala okwebaza Oweekitiibwa Pulezidenti. Ssente zino ziyambye nnyo abantu ba ghetto. Abantu ba ghetto nakubadde gavumenti ebadde n'emiwaatwa mingi gyeyisaamu ssente zaayo okutuuka ku bantu zibayambye. Naye ssente ezo zibadde tezituuka ku bantu ba ghetto. Ssente zino bannaghetto tuzibawadde era bazifunyeemu. Ebiseera ebisinga wali emabega abantu ba ghetto abamu baali bennyamivu nga bamanyi nti gavumenti yabavaako era ng'osanga abantu abamu mu ghetto nga tebalinaamu nsonga. Oli akugamba ekimbeeza mu ghetto noonyeza emirimu Uganda wonna gibuze. Twagala okusiima Pulezidenti w'eggwanga kubanga ssente ze yatuwa twazifuna era gwe guno omulundi ogwasookera ddala nga bannaghetto mu Uganda. Era twagala okumwebaza okutwagalira ddala n'atuwa ne ku ssente ezikola. Ffenaffe twagala kumusuubiza nti abalaba gye bamulabira nti akadde ate kati ffe olw'okuba yaakatutandikako tulaba nga yaakavubuka era twagala n'okumulaga amaanyi 26 oba ki ebyatuswaza edda mu mukono twagala okubimalawo ku 26 tugatteko amaanyi tumwebaze olw'omutima ogwagala abantu ba bulijjo naddala ffe bannaghetto.
Our program of poverty eradication is a must. We want everybody to be involved.
Through the parish development model, Ugandans are starting small but impactful projects to improve their livelihoods.
When we give 1 million, we know it's not enough to do many things, but it's a starting point.
I'm a PDM beneficiary, a farmer. Your Excellency, I was given 1 million Uganda shillings from Kobil Kawo PDM Circle. Your Excellency, I got 20 bunches from my small piece of land sold, got 400,000, put in the PDM farm, Your Excellency, in the PDM money, Your Excellency, I bought a cow of 1,400,000.
In 1 year, 100 families in the parish get. In 5 years, 500 families would have got.
We were the first people to receive money from Nakapriprit. I received $1 million. I rented 4 acres of land and I was able to harvest 14 bags.
So really this 1 million is enabling somebody to start something. Yes, and we don't want to give too much money to one person because we have got very many people to cover.
The parish development model empowers the people, focusing on lifting up the masses and creating opportunities that ensure prosperity for all. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance.
The circle started 5 years back with 15 members who were part of the executive, and we managed to use the same 15 members to mobilize the youth and come in to make the 16 associations. So each member took a thought of gathering, mobilizing the 15 people to make associations. So the circle was established. We happened to have 229 members that qualified for 30 millions, which we got in 2021. We used the 30 millions from the presidential initiative to buy the 6 motorcycles, which was a small number to benefit the 229 members. But we managed to use it. The 6 border helped us to go under saving culture. We managed to group our members into 15-15 for saving culture. So the saving culture is 15 groups. They could get 12,000 per day, which 12,000 at the end of the month manages to buy 1 motorcycle. That 1 motorcycle is shared among the 15. So they vote who to take it. The 15 kept on until the 15 months. Every member had to get 1 motorcycle with saving culture. As I say, we managed to get 84 motorcycles from today's report. On daily, a rider, you move Kawempe, Nakawaru, Makinde, you Kampala Metropolitan, and at the end of the day, you have 50,000. That one, we call it average day. There is a time you make 100, that is, we call it the golden day. So most of our members came without anything to use or to support their family. So we helped them by giving them the border as one of the job opportunity the SACCO is offering to the community.
Ntuusa okwebaza President Museveni olw'enkola eno gy'atutereddewo otukulaakulanya nga najja wano mu SACCO eno nga sirina piki era ndi omu ku bammemba abaasooka okufuna lupiki. Kati abavubuka abali bateesobola kugula piki wano kiba kyangu. Kuba ogula buguzi migabo $5,000 ng'ofuna piki ng'otandika obulamu. Ate ku layisi tuli bangi. Kuba omuntu tolina miliyoni 5 zigula mpya 5 kituufu. Oba oguze emigabo ate nga gijjo n'otandikira okwo tolaba nti oba ofugi.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Thank you so much for being on UBC TV always and ready to inspire you. That is the objective, that is the goal, that is the vision, and we cannot veer away from it. This morning on the agenda is not any different. We are telling a story of nutrition, have amazing guests in studio to speak into this. So once again, I earlier had mentioned the number you could use to be on the show, and I will re-echo it, 0709 602 592. It is a WhatsApp number, so make sure that you save that number so that you engage on the show. Julie Nantabamusisi is my name, and we are talking about nutrition. Now, have you ever intentionally thought about what is on your plate? Yeah? Not just how good it tastes, but really how it fuels your body day in, day out, for it to function and for the longer years that you are supposed to live and for you to be impactful to your nation, Uganda. Have you ever put that into consideration? Well, as always, the Parliament of Uganda endeavors to push this narrative through the Parliamentary Nutrition Week. And this year, 2025, is not any different. It will be the 4th edition of the Parliamentary Nutrition Week. And it is the Nutrition Week 2025. We'll be running from the 25th of May to the 28th of May 2025. And it shall be, the major events shall be in Karamoja sub-region, in particular, Moroto. Now, the theme this year is empowering better nutrition for people. And if you are a policy maker, a decision maker, a community leader, a stakeholder, one who enjoys conversations such as this and is ready to add value in one way or the other, in some form or shape, please be a part, plan to be a part of the event. Come 25th to the 28th of May 2025. Now, in studio with me, it's very important people, pertinent at that, in the sense that they have all the authority to speak into this matter. First and foremost, welcome with me Honorable Lokwang Phillips, who is my immediate neighbor. He is the MP Napore West Karenga District in Karamoja. Good morning, Honorable.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
Well, right. Now, right after the MP and on the other end as well, we do have amazing ladies. And the first one is Josephine Akia Luyimbazi, who is the country coordinator of Participatory Ecological Land Use Management, aka PELUM Uganda. But we also have in studio with us Sharon Naluwede, a nutrition specialist. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for coming to UBC.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now I will start with the Honorable. How do you feel that this year's event is in Karamoja, sub-region?
I feel very well because Karamoja is one of the regions in Uganda that is always seen to be having the lowest indices in the country. Talk about poverty, talk about education, talk about malnutrition, food security, it is at the lowest level. So I am very happy to have this week to create kind of awareness in my people who may not know what the condition is for them.
Right.
Yes.
Now, the Honorable also comes from the Uganda Parliamentary Alliance on Food and Nutrition Security Committee, and he will also be speaking into that. And I will still stay with you just so that you give us a preamble. Tell us about UPAFNS, that is the Uganda Parliamentary Alliance on Food and Nutrition Security.
Yeah, Uganda Parliamentary Alliance. First of all, the word alliance is was thought as a consortium of minds that have the same thinking about how food can be taken, can be secured in order to give proper nutrition for the people. So it was formed in 2018, and it brought close to 350 members of parliament that cut across all committees that think positive on nutrition.
Right. Now, let me go to Josephine. Josephine, good morning once again.
Good morning.
How is participatory ecology for land management in Uganda?
We are well, I should say, because this year is also one of the years that we are celebrating. We are making 30 years in existence, where we have been promoting agroecology, fostering ecological land use management, but also promoting sustainable food systems in Uganda. And as a network of over 75 member organizations across 121 districts in Uganda, we have cause to celebrate.
Right, indeed, it's worth a celebration. But tell us about your collaboration with the Parliament of Uganda.
Thank you so much. We have been collaborating with the Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Food and Nutrition for the past 3 years, not only on aspects of the Nutrition Week, but also we have what we call the Agroecological Week of Action, where we annually celebrate Uganda's heritage, especially our indigenous food. So our collaboration is strategic in nature, but also anchored on shared values as well. So our collaboration is, one, we know that the forum is full of members, and these are legislators that we need to work with to ensure that policy legislation, especially on aspects of food and nutrition, is all inclusive. Is one that promotes our cultural heritage as Uganda, but also one that is anchored on transformation within our food systems, because we all know there's an increasing surge of non-communicable diseases. And where are these coming from? It's aspects of nutrition. Are we mindful of what is on our plates? If you look at the youth currently, it's very classy for one to eat fast foods. Highly processed, those that are really rich in terms of fat, but also
that's just
sugar.
For Uganda.
Not really.
Because a friend of mine was giving me an experience of their visit to South Africa, and they were telling me that KFC, let me just use the brand as the story was told, is just a cheap food store. Yet here in Uganda, someone will lie to a girl that, let me take you out for KFC. So sometimes I tend to think that it's a Ugandan mindset that needs to be changed.
That could be right as well, especially amongst the youth and the middle class. But like you said, it's cheap. It could be cheap in the short run, but very expensive in the long run. One time somebody asked, we're in a platform and they shared and said, if you think it's very expensive for you to go to Nakasero and buy the indigenous food. Then try pricing the treatment of cancer. That is when you'll know that the cheapness that you're consuming right now in the short run will be very expensive for you when you're diagnosed with cancer, when you're diagnosed with other non-communicable diseases. So this is the week where we work with the forum to amplify our voices, to showcase the work that the smallholder farmers are doing in terms of promoting the indigenous food. When you go to Moroto, for instance, where the celebrations will be, we have partners that are there, member organizations, and you see the richness in their diversity when they're eating the blood, how they process it. This is something that is very cultural to them, very indigenous to them, but also adds a lot of value, not only on the plate, but also in terms of the nutrition. As our colleague, the nutritionist, will be amplifying further in this aspect.
Right, indeed, on that point, let me head over to you, Sharon, speaking into the conversation of having nutritionists. Many a times you find the narrative of having nutritionists in Uganda as one that is either for the rich or people who, allow me use the term, the Gen Z term, people who are bougie. It's not for the common man or for the ordinary Ugandan, a day-to-day Ugandan. But in your perspective and experience, what is the importance of having a nutritionist, especially in regards to the public health?
Thank you very much. Nutrition, I think we need to change that perspective, really. Right. Nutrition is key. Nutritions are key, whether in the community, whether at health facility, at all levels. What is their role? Nutritionists should implement nutrition programs, should develop nutrition policies, okay? What are we saying? That all nutrition programs should be monitored, should be echoed, should be advocated for, okay? We are looking at maternal child nutrition, maternal infant and young child nutrition. We are looking at adolescent nutrition, who are the young mothers. We are looking at integrated management of malnutrition. Okay, these must be pioneered or must be championed by nutritionists. You conduct health education, okay, nutrition education. You must create awareness of good eating habits in people. You see, it's lack of knowledge sometimes that we are seeing various diseases coming up, NCDs, but people are not aware, okay? But who are going to come out to do this? Nutritionists should echo, should advocate for good eating habits, okay? For eating indigenous foods, like my colleague said, okay? People need to know that the foods around us are very nutritious. They enrich our bodies, okay? We also do a number of things. You monitor these programs. Are they benefiting the targeted groups? Are we getting the outcomes? And then we shall, of course, also change. If there are programs that are not benefiting, then let's change them to have good behavior change towards nutrition. Yes.
Very profound indeed. And as Sharon was speaking, I was brought to the common norm and common perspective of just superficially thinking about nutrition in the sense it's just for rich people, or it's just for having a good body, or it's just for having a good skin, yet essentially it's actually about your internal health and the detail of it from the time you start existing on this planet Earth. Once again, good morning. In case you are just joining us, we are looking at, first and foremost, the Parliamentary Nutrition Week 2025, which shall take place on the 25th to the 28th of May in the Karamoja sub-region in Moroto. And with me are guests that are speaking into this, Honorable Lokwang Phillips, as well as Josephine Akia Luyimbazi and Sharon Naluwede, talking about this whole perspective as we are supposed to embrace it. Now, let me come back to you, Honorable. Oh, before I actually even get to the Honorable, have you saved the number? 0709-602-592. I know you have a question that you could ask the experts in studio. Honorable, the theme this year is empowering better nutrition for people. What are the objectives of this year's Parliamentary Nutrition Week?
Thank you very much. As I told you much earlier, is the key function for this Nutrition Week is to create awareness. You know, just as my colleague was talking about nutrition, or the intake is not about fatness, it's not about whatever, it's about the health. So one is to create the awareness. As you see in Karamoja, there are many persons in Karamoja who think that when you are fat, you are healthy. That when you are eating good food, you are, I mean, I don't know what the good food may be, but what I think is when you are getting to Karamoja, we are there to create awareness in the community and get a possible action points, how we can eradicate or reduce a lot of stunted, because according to research from the world organizations, we find that Karamoja, 13% of the children under 5 are stunted. And over 22,000 are wasted. You know what they call a waste is the body shape, the body volume tends to let me say emaciating. Somebody is emaciated. So it is about 22,000, over 22,000 persons in Karamoja are what? Are wasted. So we really want to get the Karamoja sub-region to know what they are and how they are feeling with the food they put in, with the food they produce, because Karamoja is rich in all what we are talking about. Sometimes when you are in Karamoja, there is a view that people have a password, and a password here is Akoro. When you greet them, what is it? They say what? Akoro, meaning that there is nothing to eat. But what they believe is when the stomach is full, they are okay, they are healthy. So this particular week is very important for Karamoja because it is going to create awareness. It is going to get rid of certain practices, local practices that have always retarded the growth. They have retarded the development in the region. So when we are there this week, we are definitely going to facilitate the minds, to facilitate the persons, to facilitate the environment alone, to make sure they are food secure and nutrition assured. Thank you very much.
That's very profound. Would you care to mention a few of the local practices that most people who stay in Karamoja have embraced, yet they're not necessarily feeding them to the best of their functioning as citizens?
Yeah, in Karamoja, for example, there is a tendency of, in some communities, thinking that you give beer, local beer, like for example, we have a butia, we have residue, and give children when they are drunk, they deceive themselves that they are okay. They get chicken, eggs, milk, and they go to sell to the market in order to buy what? This beer and so forth. But for now, they have tried to change that when you have eggs, they have to give the children. Milk, they give the children. They make porridge, they make whatever. And they are trying to desist from the traditional thinking that even residue can be given to the children. But now, it is that you give them porridge, you make them take the eggs, heat the eggs and take the milk, and at least some nutritional food.
Right.
Because generally in Karamoja, food like what they call emuna is a concoction of many assorted, valuable, and nutritious foods, which are kept for important visitors, for in-laws, if you happen to marry there. They keep for you when you come, they give you just and you eat, but they forget about the children. As long as they're happy and dancing, that they're satisfied, they don't see even the bodies that they are wasted.
So that means even their mindsets need to be changed.
That's what I was talking about, the environment, first of all. When you have the environment, think that sees nutrition, it will definitely impact on the people.
Right.
If you left them that is our nature, it cannot work. So
Right.
we want to go there, want to start today, that mind is definitely removed.
Right.
That's why I'm saying the awareness. And they focus on, and even eating almost frequently. Because in Karamoja, 3/4 of the persons, of the communities and the families only have a meal. If you are given food, you eat maybe in the evening, that's all. The rest of the time, you are scavenging, which is a bad practice. And yet, that leads to the retardation of the mind. Mental development is not there. And therefore, it creates underdevelopment and school dropout, which...
Right. Thank you very much, Honorable. Now, let me engage a bit of your comments. Magufuli here, you say that Uganda's parliamentarians, to a bigger extent, are responsible for malnutrition, having extensionally given a deaf ear on our proposal of establishing agriculture and cooperative investment bank to handle such issues. This is Magufuli Moses Mugisha. What would you say to Magufuli?
It is not true that the government of Uganda has turned a deaf ear.
Right.
The government of Uganda has succinctly and strategically thought about the food and nutrition in the country. Just as there is no, we are trying to look for a law, a policy, and a private members bill. If you see, for example, the PDM, one of the items, the key items that PDM is addressing is food. Productivity is food and nutrition. And we are talking about indigenous variety, indigenous foods that are not contaminated. You know, these imported have their own connotations of bad health to us. So the government of Uganda is never denying to put people. We have many development banks, for example, that people are supposed to borrow. And the purpose of having the PDM is supposed to improve access to finance such that the local population can produce at their best. Right. And nutrition, food security, nutrition is improved. So I totally don't agree that we have turned the back. We are addressing, because a productive nation, let me say a healthy nation is a productive one. So which government can say, I deny the people the food, and you think they will keep, food is life.
Right.
So it is not true.
Right.
to tell Magufuli should know.
Yes.
And the rest of the country, that this particular government is strategically addressing that is.
Thank you very much, Honorable Magufuli. I hope you've been answered, but please, thank you so much for being on the show. Now, coming to you, Sharon, you hinted on it a little, but let's broaden it. What's the significance of Uganda's Parliamentary Nutrition Week, especially in addressing the issue of malnutrition?
Thank you very much. I think this is long overdue. And for me, I would think the Parliamentary Week should be every quarter. You see, the parliamentarians are the political wing in this thing. And majorly, they are supposed to provide an enabling environment in the fight in addressing malnutrition. What is this enabling environment? We are saying develop policies and let everyone know, make them aware to the communities down. We had the food and nutrition bill. Where is it? Do the people in the communities know what its role is? Okay? Please popularize that bill. But strongly, we want their commitment. to resource allocation. Okay, allocate resources to addressing malnutrition. Without resources, we can't do much. We cannot do really much. So they need to advocate, but commitment, strong commitment to allocating resources. And also, they need to dialogue, engage. Nutrition is not a one-party thing. No, it is for all of us. It is for all of us. It's not for the Ministry of Health. Actually, the Ministry of Health will only do about 20% of addressing malnutrition. The 80% is from other partners, other actors, the private sector, the civil society, but who are going to engage? The enablers, their commitment, engage, okay? The line ministries coordinated by the Office of the Prime Minister, okay? Line ministries, we have over 7 sectors, okay? MAIF, Ministry of Agriculture, what is its role? Let them play their part, okay? Ministry of Education, we are saying children should feed in schools. Are they feeding? We are saying let every school have a school garden, a functional school garden, okay? Foods should be grown in the school to supplement on diets, okay? We are saying Ministry of Water, is every community in this government, in this country, getting safe water? Because it is the source of infections, okay? We are saying Ministry of Gender, yes, thank you for the PDM. That is a safety net, but are we achieving? There are many irregularities. We have seen OWEC, Operation for Wealth Creation. We saw YLP, okay? But with many irregularities, are the beneficiaries getting it? So every actor here should play their role. And we want their commitment. We want their commitment, really. And then, of course, they should also applaud. You see, in communities, there are very many good practices. People are trying their best. Good practices of addressing malnutrition. But please, can we applaud these best practices? Can these best practices be taken to other communities for members to take on the good practices? So, Mr. Phillips, we need your strong commitment here.
Right.
Yes.
Right, very profound. And I think this question goes to you, Sharon. Somebody comes through and says, good morning, UBC TV and the team on nutrition. Let me know this to say that you are eating a balanced diet. Okay, I think they're asking about a balanced diet and what food they should eat, what food and you need and source and meals to have a balanced diet on your plate. Are you able to quickly, in a second?
Okay, a balanced diet means that we are getting foods from the 3 main food groups. The 3 main food groups are carbohydrates, the energy giving foods. We have the bodybuilding, the proteins and development, and then we have the protective foods, the vitamins, fruits and vegetables. So if we can have the foods from the 3 food groups, that's a balanced diet.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Now, let me come to you, Josephine. You did hint on it a little, and that was about the indigenous foods that we have in Uganda. But share what the significance of promoting these indigenous foods and traditional foods that we have in Uganda in line with Parliamentary Nutrition Week, especially in addressing the issue of malnutrition.
Thank you so much. It's paramount for us as a country to promote the consumption, the preservation, but also the accessibility of these indigenous foods. Why? Because these are nutritionally dense, but also culturally imperative for us. When Honorable was speaking, he talked about a certain delicacy that is given to specific occasions. So it is even in the central region. If you look at the times they prepare luwombo, for instance, and who they give it to, it's not that you'll walk into every home and you'll find that on a Sunday or on a Monday there's luwombo prepared. Once you see Luwombo, it's a special occasion. And this cuts across different cultures. But if you look at our indigenous foods, for instance, the millet, the yams, in the central region, that's what they call obkopa. If you go to Nakasero, you'll get them.
Right.
If you look at Amaranthus, the dodo, she talked about vegetables. If you look at, there are quite a variety. So even in our communities, when you access these things are there, but surprisingly, we do not consume them on a daily. Why don't we consume them on a daily? One, it's the attitude that we talked about. And the Nutrition Week is coming to debunk this, that look here, it's not about the attitude, but it's more in terms of the nutritional value that you're getting from eating these kind of vegetables in terms of enhancing your immunity. When you look at certain foods, when you look at Karamoja, issues around malnutrition, issues around anemia are really increasing. And it's because we are not eating the right foods and in the right proportions. So there is need for us to get back to that and see how do we promote this. The other good significance is we are facing climate change right now. It's here with us and it's here to stay unless we rethink our unsustainable farming practices. When you look at some of these indigenous foods, not even some, but majority of the indigenous foods, they have been well known and researched to be climate resilient, meaning they can withstand the prolonged droughts and the weather shocks that come along. We have these small tomatoes, which they call the cherry tomatoes. You don't need to weed them, you don't need to water them, they will always be available compared to the hybrids that are available in the market. So it goes back to that. If we are going to have food all year round, addressing issues of hunger, then we need to promote indigenous foods that are readily available, withstand enough shocks to climate change, but also do not need high level of inputs, especially chemical inputs, when you're talking about fertilizer, soil health aspects, because these do well within our normal soils. And luckily, Uganda is a blessed country where we have already nice fertilized soil that is very nutritionally dense in terms of the soil health. So we do not need to continue using high chemicals, synthetic fertilizers to enhance our soil health. This is already available. But also we can see how do we integrate agroecological practices? How do we use locally available biorationals and biofertilizers, which we can get from things within our homestead. Manure, for instance. You brew this and then you're able to enhance your soil. But my colleague, you asked a question on how can we work with the Parliamentary Forum and what is their role. Currently, Uganda is in 2 formulation processes. We are reviewing the food and nutritional policy of 2003. Over 23 years ago or so, it has not been looked at. And this gives us a very good opportunity for us to create a policy that speaks to Ugandans, that speaks to our own context-specific aspects. And as PELAM, we are promoting, or we are part of the 9 countries that are implementing My Food is African campaign. This campaign basically looks and reminds us that we need to go back and consume our food, our indigenous and traditional food that most of us are running away from. So this week is one that is also bringing a spotlight on that, and I know that it will be very significant. So one of the things we're advocating for, and the significance of this whole event, is within the power invested within our legislators. We are trying to tell them, as we are so processing the development of the nutritional bill, how can we put the food readily accessible? How can the government pass a policy or pass certain clauses within the policies that speak to public consumption? We have UPE. How can we get this food readily available in schools, in hospitals where the middle class go? At least you know that most of the hospitals, they are people that they are catering services. We have a whole chain of supermarkets. We have a whole chain of people that are into the hotel business. When you go to the tables in the hotel business, what are we serving? It's food that is being imported, not food that is locally grown by Ugandans, that reminds us of our identity, that reminds us of our heritage. So we want to see how can public procurement be enforced to ensure that a certain proportion of food that is produced within these public entities is that has been grown locally. Denmark has done this. Europe is doing this. Uganda can do this. Yeah. We are not called a food basket by mistake. We aren't. It's because research has proven it. that we can feed our nation, all we have to do is attribute or look at aspects of distribution, look at aspects of wastage, look at aspects that ensure that there's continuous and sustainable supply of healthy and nutritional foods.
Right. And I think this would answer Dennis's question. He came through and said, thanks for the show. I'm Dennis Nyamohachi, watching from Kanungu district. Stomach ulcers has been the health problem to most Ugandans now. And could this be a problem of poor feeding? He wonders.
I am a mother by God's grace. And one of my sons actually started developing ulcers as well. He kept on complaining of the stomach, So when we went to the doctor, I was shocked. By the time he was, I think, around 8 years old, and the doctor says he's developing ulcers. So I took it a personal issue. I was like, okay, I failed as a mother, meaning I'm not giving this boy the right food he has to eat. So during the discussions is when the doctor asked, what kind of food do you give him to snack on? And what was I giving him? Unfortunately, these are brands, but things like highly processed foods, for instance, crisps, and all those that fall in those categories. If you look at most parents, we have these snacks that are made out of maize. I'm trying to protect the brands really, which we give these children. So these are very rich in terms of salt, meaning a child will eat them and they have a lot of chemical and preservatives. So a child is eating this instead of eating a fruit as a snack. So increasingly the nutrition will tell you in terms of the digestion that happens in there. So at the end of the day, there's nothing that this boy is feeding onto. And as a result, you will create enzymes in there and the processing of the food and all that happens. And there's nothing that is there to be processed.
Right.
So the acids instead will be the ones that are being processed in the long run, which results into the ulcers. So parents, especially mothers, we are the ones that determine what gets on the table. Let's go back and make sure that our families, our children, our husbands, because it begins within the homestead, are eating right and on time with the right portions, the 3 categories of food that they talked about. So even when you're packing for your children, make sure there's a fruit, make sure there's a protein, make sure there's a carbohydrate. That way the body has what it needs for you to function. And then our eating habits are also very unhealthy as well. So to the person that asked, that is viewing us and listening into us today, check your eating habits as well. Eat the right foods at the right time and within the right portions.
Right. Thank you very much, Joseph, and that's been very profound. Now let me come to you, Honorable. How do you think malnutrition is impacting Uganda, especially for regions like yours in Karamoja? How is it impacting Uganda's socio-economic development for just Karamoja, but also for the nation at large?
Thank you very much for that question. Food generally gives what they call energy. Energy is not only for work, like physical work, but even mental energy. Much of the food that we eat, if it does not have the energy, then it means you cannot do. So the impact of poor food and nutrition impacts on everybody in terms of production, because if you don't have energy, what can you produce? What can you do? So if you don't have, as my colleague has said, if you don't have good rations on food, that gives you energy to do some production. That is another one. Again, another impact is when you don't, it's good she has also talked about our son. If the child does not have good food, which is nutritious, will reduce the mental capacity, and therefore the child is able to what? Can easily drop out.
Right.
And another impact here is when you have wastage. I mean, it creates wastage in a body, which when you have wastage, it means the volume mass has lost, and you cannot have the strength, the capacity to perform anything that is better for you. For Karamoja, as I told you, there is a possibility, there is always a practice that people wake up in the morning and they leave the children at their own pace and later come. That's why you see many of the children tend to drop out of school simply because, one, they don't have energy to move, like distance schools. They don't have energy to think about school. They do poorly, you see. So this all hinge on development. So therefore the country cannot what? Cannot move.
That's true. Now Benny comes through and says, and this one is actually for you, Honorable. He says, Honorable, do you really consider the plight of the people in Karamoja? Let the government first give them water for irrigation and produce their own food. You are policy makers. What are you lacking to do this? This is Benson from Mbale.
Thank you very much, Benson, for that question. It is very true. The main cause of food insecurity and underdevelopment in Karamoja is water. And here government has injected money. All districts get money for water improvement. But again, the attitude of the persons that are given the responsibility to perform this is where the challenge is. When the president, for example, came to my constituency, when he came for the Karamoja Cultural Week, he heard out about the water, that I have given the water, the money for water, but I'm not seeing anything. If there is any possibility, if there is a need, you can always ask and we give. We give the considerations, and we are very particular. Karamoja, as for now, has changed. It's not as it used to be. Karamoja produces food. But again, it needs the awareness. That's why this week is important. It needs the awareness that when you produce food, the food must not be sold off. As I told you, they sell valuable food and get money which will be used for what? For drinking and merrymaking. You know, I think God created Karamoja as a land of paradise, because when people get food, when they get some resources, the sole activity all along is what? Is enjoyment. Enjoyment. So therefore, we needed this week to create awareness. As I say, it is basically creating awareness on our people that this is the digging time. And because it's the digging time, go to the garden. Make sure that is done. And another aspect is, just as we, as government, is trying to put in place the productive vehicle, but we also have the colonial guys demarcated or gazetted Karamoja as a what? As a wildlife area. There's wildlife all over. 3/4 of the land of Karamoja are reserves. And these animals destroy the little food that is brought. That's one of the things that creates this shortage of food, malnutrition, and so forth. So, as government, the president has accepted to put an electric fence to reduce the roaming animals, these big animals that come out to destroy the crops. Right. That's one other problem that is adding on to water shortage. When our rains come, which are erratic in most cases, we produce the food, but when the animals also come, and I would request all the developing partners and government to think with the Karamojong. Because as we talk about indigenous crops, government has ever taken, how do you call it? Technology, like you take these Frisian cows, whatever cows, They don't perform well because the environment there is ours. It's indigenous. I call it ours because that's the Karamojong temperature, climate.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's better to develop the local initiatives in terms of asking people what exactly they need, what do they do, what can they manage to proceed with, than putting these other things that destroy. So I concur with Benson.
Right.
Yes, but you know, again, is the resources.
Right.
To put water for irrigation. But that is the thinking we are doing. And we are even with the president, he's talked about it. He says, let's come up with a possibility of harnessing the available water and trapping certain waters that we can irrigate our land in order to produce.
Right. You are watching UBC TV. It's Good Morning Uganda, and the week of 25th to 28th May is Parliamentary Nutrition Week, and the theme will be empowering nutrition for people, and that is a conversation that we are engaging in. Thank you so much for being on the show. Now let me come to you, Sharon. What highlights some of the most common cases in hospitals because of nutrition troubles?
Thank you very much. The most common cases, we get malnutrition in all its forms, okay? Malnutrition is not only undernutrition, but there's also overnutrition, okay? But when I talk of undernutrition in all its forms, we are seeing stunting. This is low height for their age.
Right.
That is the manifestation. But what does this mean? That there is brain damage. Okay, we are seeing wasting low weight for their height, okay, because of inadequate dietary intake. They are eating little than they should have eaten, okay? And then we also get micronutrient deficiencies, and this is very dangerous because it's hidden hunger. You will not see, okay? The body lacks essential minerals and vitamins. Essential minerals like iron, causing anemia, zinc, causing zinc deficiencies, okay? So in all its forms, people come, especially those cases that have long-standing chronic illnesses, cases, even the acute cases, those that come sudden, will cause malnutrition. You'll find that there are cases of overweight, obesity, which is now obesity with its complications, I may say, a lot of hypertension, NCDs in general, that are now rising seriously. But what is engineering all this? It is poor infrastructure, okay? Look at health facilities, lack of resources in there. We are saying lack of, limited nutrition. Homes are having 1 meal a day. Are you seeing? So this is engineered. Infections, malaria, diarrhea, okay? So there is a lot. All these cases, all these are actually the causes of malnutrition in all its forms. The previous UDHS, the demographics, 29% of children under 5 are stunted, okay? You look at about 4% of children are wasted. These are demographs. Anemia, 53% of children are anemic. When it comes to women of reproductive age, the mothers, pregnant women and lactating mothers, 32% of them are anemic by the time they reach hospital. But we can't combat this.
Right.
Okay? I think we can combat this.
Now, somebody comes through, and this question, I believe, goes to you. Thanks a lot, UBC and the health experts, for this richful conversation. How can someone with food allergies and intolerances ensure that they get adequate diet and nutrition? Because in there now you're missing some of the important foods because of allergies.
Yes. But you see, it is most important to identify the allergy, okay, and what is causing it. You see, we can even just be in a room here and I get an allergy. What could be new? Okay, so it's very important to identify your allergy. What are you allergic to? What foods are you allergic to? we are a food basket. We have a diversity of foods. We have a variety of foods. And you know what? Most of our indigenous foods have enormous nutrients. Even if you miss a nutrient in one food, you'll find it in another, okay? So let them identify what they are allergic to.
Right.
Then we can consider other foods that can provide the nutrients vis-a-vis what you think.
All right. Now this conversation is starting to get to its close, but a lot still to learn. Coming to you, Josephine, what is the difference between, or the relationship between agroecology and nutrition?
Thank you. Agroecology is looked at in 3 strands. As a practice, in terms of the practices that we do, and I'll pick out some of the practices that speak to nutrition, for instance, aspects on soil, plant and animal health, but also the principles within agroecology. For instance, we promote the principle of biodiversity. Biodiversity seeks to address the issues that come around as a result of promoting monocropping. Monocropping is where you have an extensive piece of land and you're only planting one type of crop, whereas biodiversity promotes the planting of various plants on one piece of land. So for instance, you have cassava, you have maize, you have beans, you have some vegetables as well. So we promote this, and that's what agroecology stands for. Agroecology looks at aspects of soil and animal and plant health. And how do we do this? This is by promoting the use of readily available inputs, for instance, biorationals and biofertilizers. These are produced using locally available material. Animal urine, for instance, animal dung. We use peppers to treat small pests within our vegetables, as opposed to going to the market and buying highly hazardous chemicals that have been banned in Europe but are being found on our shelves here when you go to Container Village. So when you're looking at aspect of food safety, which really is one of the anchor stones of nutrition, agroecology promotes the production of safe, nutritious and healthy food because the chemicals we're applying are safe. These are things that we go ahead and test against some elements. For instance, we promote the use of rabbit urine. Rabbit urine can be used both as a pesticide, but as a fertilizer as well. And we normally apply it a lot on vegetables to address aspects like small aphids that are always, or scales that are always on our vegetables. So to address this, as opposed to using things like mancozeb that you'll find on our tomatoes, that whitish substance on a tomato is called mancozeb. It's a pesticide, highly toxic. So I would rather eat a tomato that has been sprayed with rabbit urine that I know is free of E. coli and salmonella, but not eating mancozeb that I know is going to have quite a number of effects within my body system. So agroecology promotes that as well. Agroecology also looks at aspects of conserving indigenous knowledge and cultural identity. I earlier mentioned that food describes us. It's who we are. It's our identity. So there is no other farming system that is promoting aspects of cultural identity. And when we're talking about nutrition, there's an element of culture that as well connects with it. So agroecology is the only food system built on these anchors that has certain principles that speak directly to food and nutrition. And so as we promote this, we are also indirectly promoting or directly promoting food nutrition, but also food safety, and looking at the overall environment, because agroecology is a systematic interaction between the different ecosystems. So how do the animals benefit from the human beings benefit from the different ecosystems they are in.
Right. Thank you very much, Josephine. And Honorable, and this is in your parting shots, what key policies are you trying to push as Parliament of Uganda concerning nutrition?
Thank you very much. As members of Parliament, we are working on a private members bill. It's already on advanced stages to bring in relevant policies that will guide, that will enable our community to work on the very good process of providing food and nutrition. And you know, this food and nutrition policy we are talking about, as we are working, is a multi-sectoral. There are many there are many ministries that want to think they are part of it. There is agriculture, there is water, there is health, there is whatever. Then we are saying we need to anchor, and of course, to anchor it in the agriculture ministry,
right?
Such that it is when you bring the food that nutrition can be attained. You cannot get the nutrition, then you get
without
the food.
Yes.
So you start with the food. So the mother ministry should be agriculture. That brings that thing. So we are on the advanced stages to put that policy in place and enable that our communities are truly responsible. I am sorry to talk about certain families where there are men who don't know the price of certain things in the house. And yet it's your part as a responsible father to know what is the mother giving the children, as my colleague said. She was giving crisps to children. You know, children can make you buy anything, especially when you love them too much. They begin to say, Daddy, Mommy, I want this one here. And there, we want to make sure that every parent, I'm sorry to steal something in it, that every parent must have a responsibility to provide the food and nutrition in his home. Without that, there must be some kind of penalty, because you cannot produce for nothing. You must provide for what you have done.
Right.
That's what we are trying to do. So.
Thank you very much, Honorable, for that. And coming to you, Sharon, your parting shots with this particular one. How do you know that you're nutritionally unstable? Someone is asking, but let it be as a parting shot on your end as well.
Oh, how do you know that you're nutritionally unstable?
Unstable.
Where unstable is what? Anyway, in Uganda, or as Ugandans, one of the most practice that we need to do is to get to do certain key investigations. What are these? How often do you take your weight, if I may ask? Okay, we need to know your nutrition status. Okay? It's very important. Rarely do we take our weights. Rarely do we walk in a health facility, or do we walk in to just check your blood pressure, or to see how have I increased? Am I in normal nutrition status? This culminates into a number of diseases. If you realize you are reducing weight, what could be the problems? Are you adding some weight? What is the problem? So it's very important for everyone to know their nutrition status. And most of the people wait until they feel pain to walk in for wellness. Wellness is key all the time, by the way. We need to know how well we are.
Oh, profound,
yeah,
very well.
Yes.
Thank you very much,
very
Sharon.
important.
And with what Sharon has said, it reminds me of what nurses told us one time when we hosted them. Men go for checkups. Do not go when you're sick. Coming to you, Josephine, how can government and civil society, as well as private sector, collaborate together more and more effectively to realize the value of nutrition in Uganda, as a parting shot?
Thank you so much. I think everybody has a role to play. As government, with all the three arms, but also through the ministries, departments, and agencies, our asks are two. One is policy reforms that speak to aspects of food and nutrition, but also looking at enforcing the implementation of these policies. It makes no sense when we have a policy and it doesn't have a legislation to ensure that it's implemented. But also to ensure effective implementation, we need proper resource allocation for us to be able to implement the commitments that we are saying within these policy reforms. So that is one for government. For us as civil society, our role is mainly community mobilization. We work with the smallholder farmers, we work directly with other service providers, community business development associations therein that can help garner momentum at local level. One time we were on a show and was still speaking aspects of know what you eat. and somebody said, I'm very much interested in eating these indigenous and healthy foods, but where can I access them? But for us to create that demand, there has to be continuous and sustainable production.
Right.
That's our role as civil society. How do we mobilize communities to ensure that, one, they are producing adequately for the market to be able to demand for this and consume this, but also how do we continue innovating locally within our communities? We have a lot of innovations that farming communities do within this particular space. Right. But also holding duty bearers accountable. Because whereas they make these policies, most often times theirs is done, so there's somebody else to come and put them into check and say, look here, you promised, this was your commitment, how far are you when it comes to realization of this commitment? So that is our role as civil society. To the private sector, we know that you're the people that invest a lot into what we do. So how can private sector be geared towards promoting value chains or promoting innovations and investing into these to ensure that we have value chains that are entirely indigenous? How do the hotel business create demand for the indigenous foods? Because when they create demand, then the civil society will go and address the production element. But also it's the private sector that kind of determines the goods and services that are available. It's them who processed foods that are all over the markets, all over the supermarkets, especially when somebody has to eat a quick snack, and yet there is a lot that they can do. So for them, investing into that, but also creating access to resources. For instance, if you're looking at financial institutions, it would be good that we have credit services that speak to these value chains that promote nutritional foods.
Wow, thank you very much, Josephine. That brings us to the end of this conversation. I totally appreciate the guests that we've had in studio today, and I appreciate you for being on the show. Good Morning Uganda comes to its end. Parliamentary Week, Parliamentary Nutrition Week, starts on the 25th of May to the 28th, and the theme is empowering nutrition for the people as a Ugandan engage.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala,